harvest season in the summer garden, and I am also very busy this time of the year keeping up with all the other things on the farm. So I'm trying to think about how I can best keep up with all the harvest, use it well, and also preserve it for later use. Refrigerators and freezers are pretty new inventions in the grand scheme of things, and so farmers for hundreds of years found ways to put away their garden harvest so that they could enjoy it all winter long. One of my favorite ways to preserve food is through fermentation. We're gonna make some pickles. This is kind of the end of the cucumber season. So, well, actually we're between cucumber seasons. I've just planted my next crop, but the cucumbers are a little weird at this point. But anytime you're making pickles or fermenting anything, you really just want to wash your stuff so that the only thing that you're fermenting is the thing that you want to ferment. Fermented pickles are my personal favorite because they're good for your gut. They're delicious, they're delightful. Prepping the pickles, I just want to cut off the knobby little ends and put them in here. Actually, you know what? I want to make these like more consumable. This is too big. I mean, let's be honest, I'm gonna eat the whole thing in one sitting and probably the whole jar, but like at least let's make it a little bit more civilized to eat it. Oh, I've gotten myself in a real pickle here. Oh, pickles are my favorite thing in the entire world. I actually, much of my young life, subsisted basically on pickles. Anytime you're fermenting anything, you don't want there to be any chemicals that are gonna stop the fermentation process. So with water, if you're not using, bottled water, I got this from our water filter, but I still left it out for 24 hours to off-gas whatever chlorine or anything else might be in there before I went for the pickles. So I'm pouring this in right now to find out how much water we need. We put our pickle babies in here and then we fill it up with water so that we know how much the pickles plus the water weighs. And so we'll put this on here. Weighs just over 2,500 grams. So we're gonna take whatever the grams are times 0.025 to find out the salt that we need to preserve it. So we'll take an empty jar, we'll tare our scale, then we'll take our salt. So 2,500 times 0.025, 62 grams is how much salt we need. So, now we're going to take all this water. Oh my Lanta. All right, well, mistakes were made. I'm also actually going to take a couple of these cookies out. We need to be able to fit the weight on top of here. We want to take our salt, which actually, since we lost a few cookies in a little water, we'll lose a little salt too. Okay. Put that in there. Shake this up to mix the salt in. We'll pour it back over the cucumbers. And we just want to make sure that they're all fully submerged. So we're gonna make ourselves a little pickle stone. We're gonna take a bag, put some water in it, and then we're going to use this to make sure that there is no air getting into the cucumbers. And so what we're doing here is we're creating what's called an anaerobic environment for these pickles to ferment. And anaerobic basically means that there's no air in here. Keeping all the air out, as we're doing with our homemade pickle stone here, will allow these to actually ferment in a healthy way. The opposite of anaerobic is aerobic, and that means with air, and that is where decomposition starts to happen. So we've talked about this with the garden before. We want an aerobic soil condition for our plants. We want our roots to have exposure to air and to moisture, but not so much moisture that it chokes off the roots. With this, it's the opposite. We want zero air because we don't want this to decompose. So now we're going to take this little concoction and put it on a shelf in a dark room that's going to stay between 60 and 75 degrees. We're in the south now, so we have AC. That's a lot easier to maintain here, and let it kind of do its thing. We'll check it every few days to make sure that there is no mold overgrowth. A little bit of cloudiness and yeast will start to form, and that's a good thing, but what you definitely don't want is moldy, gross, blue overgrowth on here, because that's going to be a sign that your ferment failed. So every time we go to check on it, then we'll just take this little water bag off, and every time we then leave it, we also want to just make sure that this has made a really good seal and that everything is staying fully submerged in the water and nothing's poking up above it. And you can actually do literally any kind of vegetable this way. You can just put it in a jar. Also, actually, should we just make regular pickles? I'm now wondering if we should actually put some spices in there. Let's put some spices in there. Let's go out here. I mean, why not? We'll put like a little sprig of basil in there. This every time. I hate rosemary. I only put that in there because otherwise I'd be judged. Look, here's a little thyme in here. All right. Actually, I want to add some after the fact pizzazz to those pickles. So I'm gonna just crush a little garlic and take a few sprigs of herbs to put in there. There we go. Just put this on top there. Just make sure it's covered too. That little thyme is probably not going to do anything, but it's in there for good measure. Okay. All right, now we can take it and put it on our shelf. And with the rest of these cucumbers, we're gonna make some Szechuan peppercorn spicy pickles. I'm excited. Ooh, you know what? We should also put a pepper in them for extra spicy. And obviously some garlic as well. I just realized I forgot my dill. So we're gonna rectify that in a big way real quick, like. Make more room for our pickle weight. We add in the Lord's spice, dill. It's like I've never made pickles before. Nearly forgot, my goodness. Some mustard seeds, and we need some scallions too. My grandma would be so disappointed right now. Now you guys hang out. The best thing about fermentation, aside from making sure that everything is submerged and having the right ratio of salt to preserve it, is that you really can kind of just create your own recipe for everything. You can use the portions that you want, you can taste them and add salt, add sugar, add whatever you want to change and alter the flavor. If this batch doesn't turn out the way you like it, you can do something else next time. It is all very, very fluid. I like a good healthy amount of dill. Obviously I love garlic. Now we're just gonna put these over here to hang out for 7 to 10 days, but we're gonna check them every day to make sure that there's no mold overgrowth or anything. I just wanna be extra clear about why we're doing this whole baggy situation. Because if we were to just do this and put the lid on, it's very possible that some of these would end up floating to the top, and then the top of the vegetable would be exposed to air, which would then allow it to start to decompose. You can find all of these recipes as well as a ton more ideas about what to do with your garden harvest on my Squarespace blog. I've been using Squarespace to host my website since 2012 when I started my business. And it is a fantastic platform for people who aren't super tech savvy like me to create stunning websites. Squarespace has beautiful artist design templates where you can simply drag and drop whatever you want to put out there in the world. If you have some thoughts that you want to put on a blog, or a gallery of photos that you want to show to potential clients, or if you're like me and you just need a spot on the internet for people to find you, a place to sell merchandise and plans and tell people about your life, Squarespace is a fantastic option. Go to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/AnnabelleTrades for a 10% discount. Now, checking on our pickles. These can get really cloudy and kind of gross looking, but that is actually totally normal in the lacto fermentation process. What you want to always look out for is any kind of fuzzy or black mold, and as long as things are submerged, you shouldn't have that. But you know, every once in a while something floats to the top and then you get something that, you know, spoils it. And if you have something gross at the top, I'd probably just toss the whole batch. It always is a little daunting the first time you ferment your own stuff, because like obviously no one wants to get sick, and it is, I mean, it's cloudy, milky, gross water, but you know, you only live once. It's great, it's great. So these basically still just taste like normal pickles to me. I might give this a couple more days. I'm just, again, making sure every day that I'm going in and pushing everything down, stirring stuff up, making sure that I'm keeping everything active in there, and then keeping my little baggies clean. And then when I go to reseal it, making sure that everything in there is submerged below the water line, and then the good stuff can bubble out and the bad stuff can not get in. But I do also want you to notice all these bubbles, because these bubbles are the signs of the fermentation happening. They're little, like, basically yeast farts that are happening up here, and that off-gassing is the byproduct of the fermentation process, and the sign that we're gonna have some good gut health growing in our pickle jar. But once these things do get to the flavor profile that you like these are, for example, I can actually just go ahead and remove the pickle weight for good, toss that aside, grab a little lid, put this right in the fridge, and these will be good indefinitely. If you like this video, I have a ton more like it, so make sure you click the playlist below. I'll see you in the next video. Cheers!